Now, the Electoral Commission has downplayed the financial implications of its decision to revert to the use of its old logo. An internal memo from the chairperson directed the removal of the logo introduced under the tenure of her predecessor from all the Commission's properties, effective Tuesday, December 4. Some members of the public have expressed concern this will result in additional costs to be borne by the taxpayer. Their views are captured in the following report.
There has been mixed reaction by sections of the public to the decision by the Electoral Commission to return to the use of its original logo. An internal memo by Chairperson Jane Mensah, copied to the Deputy Chairpersons, indicated that effective December 4, 2018, the original logo of the Commission, which bears a coat of arms and has a ballot box showing the hand casting its vote, has been restored. The Director of Elections of the governing New Patriotic Party, Evans Nimako, seems to support the decision to revert to the old logo.
The EC times past, when they were changing their logo, didn't consult the New Patriotic Party. The current administration didn't consult us that they're changing their logo from this one to the old one in order to reflect their vision and mission. So I will leave that to the EC to manage themselves. These are, for me, administrative issues. Whether we like it or not, Madame Charlotte Osei changed the logo of the EC and justified it.
Okay.
This is a new administration that has taken over, and it's of the view that in order for them to communicate to the world and deliver and ensure that they are meeting their mission and vision as a commission,
okay,
they need to go back to visit the old logo and apply that one to ensure that this is the EC of Ghana. If they had consulted us at IPAC, maybe the party would have given its opinion.
Meanwhile, Convention People's Party is demanding answers from the EC because IPAC was not consulted in the decision. Chairman of the Progressive People's Party, Ni Alotibru Hammond, believes money was wasted under the leadership of former Chairperson Charlotte Osei in the rebranding of the electoral body.
The tax money was wasted when the logo was converted. I think going back to the original did not require a new design, and the plate must have already been in existence. The wasted revenues from our financial resources was wasted when it was converted from the old to the new.
On the streets of Accra, there has been mixed reaction to the change.
I think it's not proper. It's costing Ghana millions and millions of cedis. Why didn't they wait till the exhaustion of the materials that had the endorsement of Charlotte Osei for the 5-year plan as she proposed? And now they are changing it. It's going to cost Ghana millions and millions of cedis.
Oh, the logo is very important to change the logo, because during the time Charlotte Osei was planning to change the logo, so I would like to make it point to those people who had anyone who had any office that you are in that office, you are in that office, whereby Ghanaians, they are using their tax to pay you. So whenever you are trying to implement something, and the Ghanaians said they don't want it, you have to listen to them.
Well, you heard the views of members of the public there. Now, Deputy Chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Dr. Eric Bosman, joins me live right now with to answer some questions that we have. Now, thank you very much for joining us, Dr. Bosman. Now, you've heard the concerns of the public. It's not, well, the decision to change the logo just happened or came in yesterday. Is the Electoral Commission intending to still go ahead with it, or it would want to change its mind?
Good evening to you and good evening to you. It's my pleasure to be with you this evening. I think that the Commission took the concerns of its internal...
Good evening to you and good evening to your viewers. It's my pleasure to be with you this evening. I think that the Commission took the concerns of its internal publics as well as the external public, and as members of the Commission, we came to the conclusion that having our old logo or a restoration, or what we call in our local parlance the Sankofa we decided to bring back our old logo, which we think in terms of the policy direction of the Electoral Commission, it will inure to our benefit. It's so easier for us to be able to explain it to our internal consumers as well as our external partners. So we thought we've done the right thing, and moving forward, we will be able to project the image of the Electoral Commission in the way that will advance the cause of the Electoral Commission.
Now, from what you said, it's quite clear that your internal publics, it will be easy for you to manage this with your internal publics. But there's the worry that this may be a bit confusing for your external publics, because there is this inconsistency. This logo was changed not too long ago, and now it is being changed again. Have you considered that, or did you factor that into the decision to change the logo?
No, interestingly, when we met to discuss it, it was a unanimous approval by all 7 members of the commission that we have to replace the logo. And even beyond that, you know, Mr. Lai, you have been a senior journalist for many, many years. You have been in the profession. If I ask you to explain that particular logo, I don't know if you can easily explain it when you look at it. But the one we have brought, on the face of it, you are clearly seeing transparency. You are seeing fairness. You are seeing integrity. You see the name of the Electoral Commission properly embossed. Beyond that, we see the coat of arms, a ballot box, which is clearly transparent, and you also see someone who is going to put in a paper or a ballot paper in the ballot box. So right from the word go, on the face of it, you can clearly see that this is an institution that is into election management. So we thought that by having something like that, it makes it easier. We don't really have to speak so much. You don't need to be a technical person or highly educated before you can understand. So all this played a role, and we thought that our staff especially, they felt so comfortable when they heard that the logo was going to be replaced. So for the work we are doing, we don't want to be in a situation whereby we'll struggle to explain something which is supposed to be so simple and parsimonious to our internal as well as our external public. So I do expect Ghanaians out there to really embrace it. And when you look at even the reaction from the general public, I get the strong feeling that people are really appreciative. Yesterday, I think I was listening to Joy FM, the 6 p.m. news, and your anchor said the Electoral Commission has replaced the controversial logo. That means even among media actors, they felt that logo was very, very controversial.
No, Dr. Bossman, it's not so much about your internal publics, and you still haven't answered the question about the confusion it creates in the minds of the public, because they are the ones who are going to be interfacing with the Electoral Commission largely. And don't you think that this creates confusion amongst them?
I don't think so. I do expect that initially there will be some skirmishes in terms of how people are going to understand, how people are going to appreciate it, etc. But I do think that for the larger Ghanaian population, they've welcomed this particular move. And within the shortest possible time, the areas or the places that we need to replace the old logo, we will ensure that that will be done. So generally and to a large extent, I expect the reception to be okay. I expect them to embrace it.
Now, earlier when we spoke with you, you downplayed the cost implications. But considering what has to go into it, you talked about letterheads. But letterheads are just one of the items that the logo would have to be taking off and reverting to the old one. How about the screens that you use during the electoral process? Those ones too would have to be replaced. And then the branding that you'd have to do at the Electoral Commission offices across the country.
Yeah, thank you for the question. In terms of the cost, I was trying to make the point that it's going to be part of the routine, everyday administrative expenses of the commission. The reason being that, unlike that logo, this one was already there. So we didn't need an expert to come and design anything new for us. So that cost has been avoided. And for the other areas, we are not going to be on a tangent of branding our activity. No, that's not what we are going to do. We think the main branding that must be done is in the Constitution. Let's make sure that we organize public elections, referenda in such a way that it will enhance the integrity of the process. That's our main branding, which we are committed to doing. For most of our offices, I don't expect that you come there and you are going to be seeing the logos being embedded or embossed. No, we are not going to be doing that. So when you go to our district offices, what you are going to be having is that the signpost, then you are going to have the logo there. Unlike what was done previously, we are not going to be doing that. So we don't expect that branding is going to take a chunk of our money. We know there are printing houses there who can be doing something for us, and it's not going to be so expensive. And some of these are stickers that are going to be pasted. So in terms of the cost, when we met as a commission, we noticed that cost shouldn't be a reason why we will not do the right thing that must be done.
Now, Doc, when one of the very first elections you're going to be conducting, exercises you're going to be conducting will be the NDC presidential primaries. Are we expecting to see the new logo or the old logo?
No, we will see the new logo. You know, even before the NDC presidential primary, we are going to have the referendum on December 27th, which we will make sure that all our equipments, everything will have the new logo. So for that one, and when you look at our letterheads, we have given the directive that all correspondence from the commission to our external publics must bear the new logo. Even today, a press release was supposed to go to all media entities, and it was supposed to bear the new logo. I believe by now, maybe your office or other media entities have that. So we want to ensure that gradually, but for an important activity like the referendum on December 27th, we are going to do that. For the NDC one and even the by-election, which is coming up sometime in January, we'll ensure that all our equipments, facilities, papers, and everything will be embedded by the new logo.
Okay, so when you say new logo, now I'm getting a bit confused. Is it going to be the one with the coat of arms or the one with the stars and the colors?
The one with the coat of arms. It was old, but now it has become new.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Eric Bosman, bringing us up to date or sharing those insights with us regarding the decision by the Electoral Commission to revert to the use of old logo, which he says is now new. Now, works on the reconfigured Adenta-Medina Highway footbridges is expected to be completed in 6 months. The absence of walkways on the 5-kilometer stretch between Pantang and Medina resulted in the loss of several lives from pedestrian knockdowns. Government eventually re-awarded the contract on the abandoned footbridges following a massive demonstration last month after a student of the West Africa Senior High School was run over whilst crossing the road. President Akufo-Addo, who was on day 2 of his Greater Accra region tour, inspected work on the bridges. Interacting with Deputy Managing Director of Urban Roads, Kwesi Nyama, President Akufo-Addo demanded a comprehensive maintenance program when the project is handed to government.
Safety intervention on the road as a contractor is doing this. So we have about 6 junctions that we are undertaking this. We are doing this at the Adenta Boboa, Pantai, SDA, Adenta Barrier, Songo Junction, and Bridge Junction. Where are we? We are the SDA. Now basically, yes, basically what we are trying to do is, for example, at this junction, this SDA junction, what you are trying to do are cabling works and mounting of the poles which were not working, then signal heads and controller heads. And at the various junctions, we are almost doing similar things. Now, we are also putting in crash barriers, a length of about 5,000, about pedestrian handrails, fencing, and fencing different types. We are also undertaking some civil works by way of curbs, paving works, and also doing rollers and road lines markings. We hope that before bullets are the long things that vehicles from entering an area, we put them, line them, mark them with safety signs, so they show to make sure that to protect pedestrians. That's yes. So these are basically the works that we are doing at all the time. Before the contractors finish the segregation of concrete, we are putting these interventions. Also doing road line markings so that the vehicles stop to allow the pedestrians to move to avoid any accidents. So basically we have some pictures. The road line markings, we are putting them.
Now joining us on the phone by Skype right now is Dr. Samuel Kofi, a resident, one of the leaders of the Fix Your Food Bridges. We have him on phone actually. Now thank you very much for making time to speak with us. We know that there have been some interventions in the last few weeks since the massive demonstration. How has that helped in curbing the frequent pedestrian knockdowns?
Yeah, the good news is ever since we had all the pedestrian safety interventions, we haven't recorded any death yet. There have been few cars which have been involved in accidents, but there hasn't been any death yet. So we can say that pedestrian safety has significantly increased. The good news is we have the police, the community police, and personnel from the 2 municipal assemblies who are always around at advantage points, directing traffic flow and helping pedestrians to cross. So far, so good.
What do you make of the news that the footbridges are going to be completed in 6 months?
Yeah. We are cautiously optimistic because in Ghana there have been numerous projects which have been commissioned, numerous projects which have been inspected as ongoing projects, and they never saw the light of day. So we will only be happy when we see it having been completed. But so far, like I stated earlier, we are cautiously optimistic, monitoring things. Once the footbridges are completed, then we can finally say we are happy. Because with work going on now, it does not necessarily mean that the April deadline or 6-month deadline they promised they would complete. These bridges had been there for over 8 years, and they had constantly assured us that they will be completed. So until we see these bridges completed, we are cautiously optimistic.
But at least for now, you can see work ongoing, I believe.
Yes, yeah, they've done tremendously well. To be honest with you, they've done zebra crossing, several works, had earlier been said, several works ongoing, pavement, they've done the hoarding. The bridges have been hoarded, so you have temporary fencing being done using roofing sheet as hoarding around the footbridges, and there have been excavations and certain concreting being done here and there. That gives us hope that progress is being made. But like I said, we will still wait till we see the footbridges completed, all the 6 footbridges completed, before we will be so happy. We don't want to jump the gun when not everything has been completed.
All right, thank you very much. Dr. Samuel Kofi is a resident of Adenta and a member of the Fix the Footbridges Coalition. Still ahead in the bulletin, NDC National Executive Council and the party's Council of Elders reach compromise over filing fee for upcoming presidential primaries. And then we're going to have another draw for the A Taste of Asia promotion. So do stay tuned. That comes up later on in the bulletin. The Functional Executive Committee of the Opposition NDC has heeded an advice by the Council of Elders of the party to slash the 400,000 cedi filing fee for flock bearer hopefuls. After a series of meetings on Wednesday, the FEC, acting on behalf of the National Executive Committee, resolved to slash the amount by 100,000 cedis. It also extended the deadline for filing. Deputy General Secretary of the NDC, Peter Otokuno, says from the outcome of the meetings, only aspirants who petition the Council of Elders have a 2-day window to pick the forms. He says the date for the party's January primaries has been rescheduled to January 26 instead of the original January 19 date.
The Council of Elders met. They had a marathon meeting in the morning, considering the petition of the presidential hopefuls who had petitioned them on various grounds, and they came up with some little advice for the National Executive Committee, which was communicated to the Secretariat. So upon consultation with some members of NEC, FEC was granted the leeway to act on their behalf. So we had to organize an emergency FEC meeting, of which the advice from the Council of Elders were considered. And based on the advice, we did a review of the earlier regulations and guidelines that we had released. And what we came up with was that the Section 9 of the regulations, which spoke about the filing fees, was reviewed to capture the new figures for the filing fees. So we reduced the filing fee from 400,000 Ghana cedi to 300,000 Ghana cedis. And for the female aspirants, initially they were going to pay 200,000 Ghana cedis to file their nominations. Now they would pay 150,000 Ghana cedis to file their nominations, and the persons with disability will now pay 100,000 Ghana cedis instead of the 150,000 cedis previously enshrined in the guidelines. Now, a few other changes were also made to the dates for the election. Now, the new date for the election is 26th of January 2019, and we have given some extension for the aspirants who petition the Council of Elders to pick their nomination forms, and they can do that tomorrow, Thursday, and Saturday on the 8th of December. Those are the 2 days that we have given for the aspirants who still want to pick nomination forms and contest the elections. Then the other electoral activities on the calendar has also shifted. So the filing will now be from 17th and 18th, which was previously the vetting dates. And the vetting dates now will be 21st and 22nd of December. So after the vetting, they will do the balloting and they can go and continue with their campaign. These are the decisions that we have made. We have communicated same to the Council of Elders. The final decisions of the Functional Executive Committee has been communicated to the Council of Elders, and we have information that the Council of Elders have arranged a meeting with all the petitioners to communicate or convey same to them tomorrow.
So you haven't communicated to the aspirants yet?
We are not in a position to communicate with the aspirants because they didn't petition us. They petitioned the Council of Elders. So we can only communicate to the Council of Elders that based on their advice, these are the decisions that we have taken, and they would convey same to the aspirants who petitioned them.
Would you say it was an imposition or an advice? Because clearly you were told that you erred by not consulting the Council.
No, it cannot be an imposition because the Constitution makes room for the Council of Elders to advise on any decision. So if the Council of Elders have advised the National Executive Committee, it is just in line with our constitutional mandate to work or consider the advice. Then when the advice is considered, we would have to report back to them that, okay, based on the advice they give us, these are the decisions that we have made. And it is just in line with the procedures of the party.
Now, even party officers in the Ashanti region are John Mahama branded. That's a response the Ashanti region NDC Secretary Kwame Zu has for critics of the party for branding its office with the former president's posters. NDC supporters of other aspirants are displeased about the developments they argue gives the former president an undue advantage in the upcoming primaries. Nanaya Jima visited the party office in Kumasi and reports the entire office building is covered in Mr. Mahama's campaign material.
The ground floor of the one-story uncompleted building is awash with posters promoting Mr. Mahama's comeback bid. Even the most casual visitor cannot afford to ignore a John Mahama banner hanging loosely on the roof of the building. Inside the building, assorted materials decorate the walls and offices. In the office of the regional secretary, a picture of the former president hangs on the wall, with huge piles of the campaign materials stuck in a corner. The only exception is two posters of Dr. Ecospio Gabra on a metal container sited on the premises.
And they have accordingly picked their nomination forms. Our offices are always opened for any aspirant who so desires to place his or her poster at our offices. What we have seen is exclusively those of John Mahama being placed. However, for our support for candidates, I think the Regional Executive Committee in Ashanti has been very categorical that we feel that if we support His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, he can better lead the party into victory 2020. Nonetheless, that does not in any way prevent any other aspirant from bringing his or her poster to display at our regional offices.
Some party supporters who were engaged to paste the former president's posters say they are moved by the love they have for him to perform the task.
I think, or we think, he's the best candidate to lead us, because if we change candidates, I don't think it will help us, because it's the project that he did during his tenure that we stood on to campaign in 2020.
Even if there are 1,000 people in the contest, they can't win power for us. We believe in the former president, and that's the reason behind our support. She says, we the women here supported the pasting of the posters. We financed it and also took part in the work. We know Mahama can win power for us. Regional Secretary Kwame Zu explains no party law bars executives from taking such stance.
It is a choice we have to make individually. However, it is only coincidental that we all seem to be thinking alike. So though we may be speaking as a body, it is an individual decision we have all made.
Party executives say despite their support for the former president, they will give the needed support to all other aspirants who find themselves in the region to campaign. Nanaya Ojima reporting.
The minority in Parliament is accusing government of overpricing 10 road projects under Phase 1 of the Sino Hydro program, which the House approved Wednesday. Various road projects, including the Tamale and Takoradi interchanges, are to be constructed under the arrangement, which will see Ghana pay the company with proceeds from bauxite. Parliamentary correspondent Joseph Opoku-Gakpo has more.
Member on Parliament Roads Committee Kwame Agboja claims 1 kilometer of road and that the first phase of the project will cost 5 million cedis instead of 1 million cedis. He further claims a picture shot as part of the budget is costing $60, which he says is overly expensive.
Building an ordinary 2-layer road in 2016 for 1 million Ghana cedi was expensive. How on earth could we accept doing the same thing in 2019 for almost 5 million Ghana cedis? Mr. Speaker, I believe the committee should have done a better job. I hope the issue I raised about one shot of a picture. Your formula is cutting out with being $60. Mr. Speaker, $60 can buy you a whole camera. We should never accept this. We hope that all this will be cleared out when the value for money is done. We cannot accept one picture for $60 under this particular contract. Mr. Speaker.
Chairman of Parliament Road Committee, Samuel Aipe, has defended the deal, insisting Mr. Agboja does not understand the nature of infrastructure being built.
You can't measure looking at the distance of a road to determine the cost. Looking at this project, Mr. Speaker, we are going to build interchange. An interchange of about 2 kilometers. You can't just add it and say that because the length is this, it is expensive. You must look at the processes. The scope of work is what you have to consider before you determine price. Because when we're talking about the interchange internally, we are talking about interchange in Takoradi. Right. We put all these factors into consideration before concluding the cost of the project.
Ranking member on Parliament Finance Committee, Ato Forson, claims $200 million of the $600 million loan will be used solely to pay interest.
It's an expensive loan in the sense that we are actually asking Sinohydro to give us $422 million, of which we will be ending up paying $150 million in interest and insurance. So if you are to express this as a percentage of the amount that they are giving to us, we are spending 35% of the amount. And for that reason, Mr. Speaker, we cannot be part of that.
Information Minister Kojo Nkrumah has been defending the deal.
We need to embark on these infrastructure projects to develop the dilapidated infrastructure of our country. That point has been made. The second point has been made that when you read the agreement, this financing agreement actually says that up to, it's a ceiling that we are providing for it. And we have mentioned that at the time of these negotiations, the conditions that prevailed have significantly improved, and therefore the finance minister has given assurance at committee level that he's going to go through and come back to us at the point of execution. Remember that at the time when we were passing some of the other transactions, the all-in cost was sitting somewhere around 6.1%. This, admittedly, all-in cost is about 7.7%. But we have explained that it's because the risk is on Sinohydro, and therefore the insurance premium goes up a little bit. I don't think that there are any substantive issues that our friends here have raised, except this fabrication of one picture costing X amount. Look for the agreement, there are copies here, and read and find out for yourself if you find any such thing in there. We are happy to go ahead with developing the infrastructure as outlined in this first tranche, and we'll be hopeful that upon successful completion we'll have the opportunity to develop the other tranches.
10 women who were screened at various hospitals across the country have been referred to the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital for immediate cervical cancer treatment. The 10 will be given free treatment at the radiotherapy department of the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital. This was made possible by the Ghana International Women's Club, an NGO dedicated to improving the lives of women and children across the country. Efua Evans-Chinwe reports.
I felt very sick. I could barely move. I started praying. By God's grace, I can move now.
This 62-year-old woman is one of the 10 who are benefiting from this intervention. She's a trader. One day, when she returned from the market, she suddenly started bleeding. It was later detected that she had cervical cancer, but she has no cash to pay for the treatment.
After
the tests were done, it was detected I had cervical cancer. Soon as the money for the treatment was mentioned, I screamed. Where was I going to get that amount of money from?
Apart from taking care of these patients' medical bills, the club has also presented a C-arm digital imaging machine to the hospital. Jackie Ahumka-Lindsay is the president of the Ghana International Women's Club.
The first thing that we wanted to do was to make sure we understood what cervical cancer was about, the prevalence in Ghana, and what we can do to actually raise awareness so that when we also go around asking for support, we can get the support that we need. And we spoke with WHO World Health Organization, we spoke with one of the major drug companies that provide the vaccine, and also with General Electric, who gave us a big discount from 180,000 to 105,000. And we decided to focus on starting to raise the funds. And we realized that because it's one of those diseases that can be cured 100% and also can be prevented, it was something that we could actually jump on the bandwagon to not just raise awareness, but also to make sure that we can provide the necessary equipment for treatment.
Dr. Hannah Aite Ani is a senior specialist clinical oncologist at the radiotherapy department of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. She says a woman must not hesitate to visit the hospitals when they suspect something wrong in their bodies.
It's advisable that you present early to the hospital. So immediately there are signs and symptoms which are usually very glaring, especially for the woman. Once you start having a bleeding within your periods or after menopause, you start bleeding. Usually it catches your eye. I mean, something that won't go unnoticed. So we advise that all women, immediately they notice there's anything wrong, go to the gynecologist who usually manages female-related problems.
The Ghana International Women's Club will also sponsor the cost of maintaining the C-arm digital imaging machine for the next 5 years. This is critical in the fight against cervical cancer and will be used in diagnostics, surgical treatment, and physiotherapy.
President Akufo-Addo has donated his November salary of 25,000 cedis to the National Reconstructive Plastic Surgery and Burn Center Fund. The facility, constructed with the $2 million funding from the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation, aims at offering efficient treatment for burn patients. But the good news turned to bad when the 5-story maternity block at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital caught the president's attention. The facility is in a deplorable state, houses newly born babies and their newborn babies and their mothers. President Akufo-Addo pledged to follow through a financial proposal currently before the finance minister to rehabilitate the building.
I came here on a happy note, but it was a note which turned sad, very sad, when I sat down. Because in sitting down, I saw the edifice in front of me, which happens to be, I believe, the maternity block. And I saw in it a sign of the tragic decay that has engulfed our country. But then the two pieces of information came to lift my spirits. The first was from the Minister for Health, who informed me that funds have been sourced for the complete rehabilitation of both this and the surgical ward. The terms of the funding are before the Minister for Finance, and the Minister for Health plans to bring this project to Cabinet early in the new year for approval to begin the work of rehabilitation. I don't need to assure you that the Chair of the Cabinet, Mr. President, will readily add his voice of approval.
Statistics available put the survival rate of burn patients in Ghana at 40%. The high mortality rate is blamed on inadequate facilities and absence of trained professionals in that sector. Director of the Reconstructive Plastic Burn Center, Dr. Opoku Wariampoma, is hopeful additional support from GNPC will help deal with the gaps.
Currently, 35% of our burn admissions and 44% of our burn deaths occur as a result of petroleum and gas-related fires or explosions. Mass burn incidents are not uncommon in this country. A significant cause of mortality has been the lack of an intensive care facility to support the critically ill, especially those with inhalation burns. This burn ICU complex is indeed a game changer in the management of severe burns. ICUs, however, are heavily manpower and resource dependent. I am hopeful that the Honorable Minister of Health will support us with the deployment of additional healthcare manpower and resources to enable us operate at full capacity. We owe a debt of gratitude to the board and management of the GNPC for their commitment, which ensured that they continue to support this landmark project to its successful completion. I trust that they will continue to empower our dreams of providing world-class reconstructive surgery and burn care excellence by supporting the next phase of development of this facility, such as the establishment of skin culture, tissue banking, tissue viability services, an oxygen concentrator, electronic medical records, etc. We at the center are grateful to the Minister of Health and a team of consultants from the Capital Investment Management Unit for effectively supervising the project.
The Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, has intervened in addressing cross-border challenges between Ghana and Burkina Faso, with emphasis on tomato importation. The sub-regional body's technical arm, the Permanent Interstate Committee for Drug Control in the Sahel, is spearheading the efforts. It follows Joy News' documentary, Desert Tomatoes, which threw light on the ordeal Ghanaian traders and transporters go through when importing tomatoes from Burkina Faso. Prince Appiah was in Burkina Faso for the high-level stakeholder meeting and now reports. This is the first part of the series of the outcomes from the meeting and interventions to address the tomato impasse.
The cross-border trade between Ghana and Burkina Faso is very critical to the economy of both nations. Early in the year, we brought you a report on how traders from Ghana go through a lot of challenges transporting tomatoes from Burkina Faso here to Ghana. For the first time in the history of both countries, the Ghana National Association of Traders, Tomato Traders and Transporters have met with the Federation of Tomato Producers here in Burkina Faso, together with the technical hand of ECOWAS, to find a long-standing solution to the challenges that the traders face. Farmers from tomato-growing communities like Kaya, Kungusi, and others met their Ghanaian counterpart. It is the first ever meeting for the 20 years of the cross-border trade between the two countries to find lasting solutions to challenges in the tomato trade. These challenges were highlighted in Joy News' documentary titled Desert Tomatoes.
You have done a very good investigation. You come up with the major challenges that traders are facing in this tomato trade cross-border between Burkina and Ghana, specifically the women. You know, 95% of the traders are women. And your documentary come up with the real problem, what they are facing.
Brahim Assisi is analyst of intra-regional trade and transport of agricultural commodities in Sahel and West African countries for SAILS. SAILS, the Permanent Interstate Committee for Drought Control in the Sahel, is the technical arm of ECOWAS spearheading the efforts.
The main stakeholders who are involving in tomato value chain, from the producers to the traders, including the transporters, for them to sit together. This is the first time that all of them sit together, discuss about the problem they have, and find among themselves the solution that would be implemented on the ground. The other problem, like the Oros harassment issue, we will work on it. We will meet the Burkinabe top authorities, the police IGP. We have already a meeting, we scheduled a meeting with the IGP at the police level, with the custom director, service director.
The Ghana National Tomato Traders and Transporters Association are excited with the meeting. Eric Osei-Tufo is chairman.
This is the first time that we have met, including ECOWAS people, the Burkina farmers, their agric officials, as I can say, the agronomists and their technocrats. They are all among this meeting. So this meeting has really benefited us because it seems all the loopholes have been covered.
General Secretary of the province of Kaya in Burkina Faso, where the meeting was held, says the meeting is timely.
The road, when you are going in Ghana, we're coming from everybody wants something with you, and that's not good. That's not good for the economy of tomatoes. And we administration, we working with also ECOWAS to make rules which can make easy the business between the two countries.
It is expected that if all these measures are put in place, there will be smooth trade between the two countries. My name is Prince Appiah, reporting from Burkina Faso.
Liberian academic Dr. Roptil Niajai Pile is pushing for new ways to combat corruption. The Oxford University lecturer has so far authored 2 books meant to teach children the need to remain honest. She believes this could prevent the next generation of adults from abandoning their innate potential of avoiding corruption. Joseph Akable met Dr. Paley on the sidelines of an AU dialogue on corruption held in Botswana. Here's this report.
They thought about how Ma and Pa left their first church, the Pentecostal Tabernacle, because the pastor was caught taking money from the offering to build his family a mansion on the beach. They thought about Bagba and the round C word. They realized how much they did not like the word at all.
A depiction of one of the books authored by Liberian Oxford-based academic Dr. Robert Paley.
The title of the book is Bagba, and it means, loosely translated as trickery, that bad thing in the Bassa language, which is one of the 15 languages in Liberia. And it's basically an anti-corruption children's book. The intention of the book is to have a national conversation with kids in Liberia as well as across the continent of Africa about what it means to be accountable to oneself, one's community, one's nation, one's continent, and one's globe.
In this book, Dr. Paley tells the story of siblings who traveled to the Liberian capital of Monrovia to visit their uncle.
In the capital, they have a series of experiences that remind them of this Bassa word, Bagba, which effectively means corruption.
She believes children are innately honest and must be sensitized early enough about corruption before society changes them.
If you ask a 5 or 6-year-old child, what do you think of this? They'll tell you the bold truth without necessarily sugarcoating it, without necessarily rationalizing with it, without necessarily fudging the truth. So my intention of writing this book is to really cultivate that natural honesty, that refreshingly truthful nature that children have naturally until they're socialized to be dishonest, and to use the verbal tools, or to give them the verbal tools to have conversations about how the confusing ethical codes of the adults really affect their lives.
Dr. Paley is confident adults could equally benefit from well-informed children who will be in a position to reject moves aimed at corrupting them.
So that's really the intention. I think children really can be the moral compass of the world and the moral compass of our continent. So it's not teaching them about the values of ethics, because I think they are already naturally honest, is using them to remind adults about why it's necessary to maintain that innocent honesty that we all have when we're children. And then we gradually become socialized to be dishonest, unfortunately.
Her 2 books have already been approved as supplementary reading material by the Education Service in Liberia and Ghana. An interest in her work is gradually showing up in the music industry. Liberian musician Takun J has adapted her book titled Jaka in a song. Like many other activists, Dr. Paley hopes her contribution to the corruption fight yields some results. Joseph Akable, Joy News, Gaborone.